nor intellect, nor ego feeling. Mind nor intellect, nor ego feeling. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. I am He.
Good evening, namaste, my dear friends. Welcome to today's class on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Let us sit straight with a straight spine. Let us be aware in this moment. Let us raise our energy. Let us offer a prayer to invite God and the Gurus. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Bhagwan Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar Ji, beloved Gurudev Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, friend and guide Swami Kriyananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, great sages Ved Vyas, Maharshi Patanjali, Adi Shankaracharya, humbly we bow and touch thy feet. Heavenly Father, I now realize that all the pursuits of material life, even though crowned with fulfillment, offer only temporary joy. Help me to find the reservoir of perennial bliss in oneness with Thee. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let us sing the hymn to Brahma. Each one of us is the song of God, His special creation. By His command, the elements got together. By His command, the elements created the universe. By His command came the mind, the intellect, the senses, and this whole dream. Each one of us was uniquely crafted by Him. We are His Bhagavad Gita, eternal, infinite, played over and over again in sweetness, in harmony, in love, and in joy. May we recognize this truth always and now. Let us hear a few thoughts by Swami Kriyananda on the topic of security. Man struggles all his life to store up treasures for himself, to ensure his property against loss and his health against the devastations of disease. He rests his faith in outward measures and sees not that such faith is like asking a wave not to move. Security is his alone, whose faith rests in the Lord. Most practical of men is he who offers his life to God, praying, "My safety is thy responsibility, Lord." This does not mean we should not be conscientious, but after doing our very best, we should leave the worrying to God. Let us do the following affirmation multiple times. I live in the fortress of God's inner presence. Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me. I live in the fortress of God's inner presence. Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me. I live in the fortress of God's inner presence. Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me. Mentally follow this prayer. I accept whatever comes, Lord, as coming from thy hands. I know that it comes in blessing, for I am thine, as thou art ever mine. Om, peace. Amen. Coming to our story section now, and we continue reading Master's miracles in varied forms. This is a story of a friend of Dr. Lewis who was unwell and in the hospital. So this is how it goes. Dr. Lewis once telephoned his guru, who was in Encinitas, to ask help for a friend of his. The man was in the hospital in Chicago and was on the point of dying. Now, take a moment to think of the map of USA. So Master was in Encinitas, which is in California, that means the west coast of US. And the person concerned was in the hospital in Chicago, which is in northeast of the USA. And we know how vast a country US is. So this is the physical distance between these two. Okay, so Dr. Lewis is called Master, reporting this problem to Master. Yogananda ji prayed. Suddenly, the Master said, what seemed like a bolt of lightning, it went out of me. That very moment, a loud thunderclap resounded in the man's room in the hospital. Immediately, he sat up, completely cured. A nurse in the room witnessed it all incredulously. There was no hope for the man, she reported later. And suddenly he was as well as you and I. She was a very materialistic woman, finished the master. Means he's telling that the nurse was very materialistic, and yet this is what has happened in front of her. This story was one he told himself to me, as Swamiji is saying, that to show people that no matter how ill they are, there is always hope of a cure by God's grace. So yes, on the one hand, we need to be practical and do what the needful is. On the other hand, we need to trust Master. Now, it does not mean that if our physical illness is not cured, that the Master does not love us, but he may have other plans. Now, if you look at the life of Swami Kriyananda, he had almost all the diseases that one can think of under the planet. So in one way or the other, but he never prayed for himself. And it is not that Master blessed him with good and nice health, but so it is different for different people. We have to see where we stand and what kind of healing do we need. I mean, we should remember that the ultimate healing that the Guru is here to give us is to heal us from the ignorance of the darkness of delusion. He is here to actually cure us from the disease of Maya, in which we start to think that we are these limited individuals instead of looking at the truth where we can say that we are infinite and eternal. So that is the main disease that the Master is here to cure in us. And it's okay to appeal to him for physical health, emotional health, mental health. But once there comes a time of maturity when you can just accept these things in the stride, and you do not care so much about the body, you just do the simple practical steps and then forget it. So it is for each one of us to decide how we want to take this whole story of health and sickness and disease and cure. But we should always remember that his main work lies at the spiritual level. Okay. Another very interesting story. This is a guidance for marriage that Master gave to a young person. During the Master's early days in America, he had a student, a young man, who asked Master to make him a monk. No, the Master replied, I see a good wife in your future. The man said, I'll never marry. Some days later, the man announced to him, I've met a beautiful young woman. Master said, no, she's not the one for you. The young man says, what do you mean? She is perfect for me. We are soulmates. Master said, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Some weeks later, the man returned with a long face. You were right. She took my money, then left me for another. I want to become a monk. So Master said, no, your bride is still to come. Never. I want to be a monk. Let's wait and see, Yoganandaji replied with a smile. Again, a few weeks later, the man came laughing. You'll never believe this, sir. A large, fat, very plain woman has been following me around. Oh, exclaimed the Master. She feels the right one for you. Oh, no, Master. No, please don't be right. You were right the first time, but please be wrong this time. Master says solemnly, she feels like the right one for you. Well, the woman turned out to have an angelic heart. The man fell deeply in love with her. They married and settled down to a very happy marriage together. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, so I'll read out two more stories, then I'll be finishing the list of stories that I have with me so far. So this is another very, very interesting story, another facet of Master's presence. And this is a story after Master had left his body. This is from the 1980s. A woman came to the Ananda retreat to buy something at the boutique. She saw a small laminated photograph of someone she didn't even know. It was a picture of Yogananda, but she bought it only because she liked the face. She placed it face out on her bookcase. Some weeks later, she returned to Ananda saying, I just had to return and tell someone what happened to me. I've had a hard life. My first fiance or husband, I'm not sure, whatever, this says fiance. So my first fiance died of a terminal illness. My second was killed in a car accident. I was so heartbroken that I finally decided to kill myself. I was walking toward the door to get into my car to drive off a high bridge to kill myself. Suddenly, that photograph on the bookcase expanded and became life-sized. It stood in the doorway and wouldn't let me through. I decided at that point to drop my plan of committing suicide. The next story is a very sweet story, and it's called The Rose Devotee. Master was in his living room in Encinitas with Sister Shraddha. Beside him, in a vase, stood a single rose. A monk came to the door, and Yogananda went there to speak with him. Sister Shraddha looked casually at the rose and saw it pointing toward the door. But she thought, I could swear that a moment ago I saw it pointing at his chair. The master returned to his armchair. Shraddha looked at the rose again, somewhat absent-mindedly. Wasn't it pointed at the door a moment ago? Now it was pointing towards the chair. Is my memory deceiving me? She asked herself. After a while, another monk came to the door. Again, the master went there to confer with him. This time, Shraddha made it a special point to look at the rose. It was now definitely pointing toward the door. Master came back. A few minutes later, she noticed it pointing again toward the chair. Sir, she said at last, you have a new devotee. And she explained to the master what she was observing. The master simply looked at the rose and smiled lovingly. Om, peace, amen. So reading and listening to these stories, the goose pimples start to appear, and you feel, at least I feel, a certain thrill in the body to just feel Master's living presence through these stories. Okay, so now we come to the study of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and today is a special day because we are beginning the third book or the third chapter in the Yoga Sutras called the Vibhuti Pad. And we know that the first chapter was Samadhi Pad, then came the Sadhana Pad, then Vibhuti Pad, and then will come Kaivalya Pad. Before we go into Vibhuti Pad, I will quickly read out a few important sutras from Samadhi Pad and Sadhana Pad so that we have a link and a kind of awakening of the memory to form a flow of what we are doing. Okay, so when we began this scripture in Samadhi Pad, the first sutra was Atha Yoga Anushasana, means now yoga is explained. Then the second was another important one, Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha, means yoga is the restraining or stopping of the whirlpools of the mind stuff. Okay, Sutra 5 said that this is what vritti, the modification of the mind, the vritti. So the Sutra 5 said there are various types of modifications. Vrittis are there, which some are painful and some are not painful. Then what are the types of vrittis of the mind? These are knowledge, even right knowledge, indiscrimination, verbal delusion, sleep, and memory. We talked about all these at length. And then we also discussed how right knowledge can be obtained through direct perception, through inference, or through competent evidence, that is evidence of the saints who have had direct perception of the infinite. Then going on forward, Sutra number 12, Patanjali said that the vrittis can be controlled by practice and non-attachment, yani ki abhyas or vairagya. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 6, 6, when Arjuna asks Krishna that the mind is restless, how can we control the mind? This is the answer that Krishna gives to Arjuna, that the mind can be controlled by abhyas and vairagya, means practice and non-attachment. Sutra 13 said that the continuous struggle to keep the vrittis perfectly is practice. So what is abhyas? So what is practice? Is a constant effort in which you try to restrain the modifications of the mind or the vrittis of the mind. And it needs constant effort, it needs long effort, and it needs with great love and devotion. So whatever your abhyas may be, it has to be done sincerely, with love, unceasing effort, prolonged effort, continuous effort that has to be brought into our practice. Then again, going forward, in Sutra 18, Patanjali said that samadhi will be attained when all of this, the mental activity, the vrittis of the mind are stilled. By cessation of all mental activities, samadhi is attained. Again, moving on to Sutra 20, so samadhi can also be attained through faith, through energy, through memory, concentration, and discrimination of the real from the unreal. Sutra 21 is said that success is for those who are extremely energetic. Sutra 22, the success depends on the efforts of the yogi, whether they are mild, medium, or intense. Sutra 23, the samadhi can also be attained through devotion to Ishvara. Sutra 24, Ishvara is that special Purusha which is untouched by misery, actions, their results, and desires. And Sutra number 27 says that the name of this God is Om. Sutra 28 says samadhi can be attained by repetition of Om and the meditation on the meaning of Om. Okay, and then what happens in Sutra 29, Patanjali says, from that it is introspection is gained and the obstacles on the path are destroyed. And what are the obstacles that happen? These are disease, mental laziness, doubt, lack of enthusiasm, lethargy, clinging to sense enjoyments, false perception, non-attaining of concentration, or falling away from concentration when attained. These are distractions of the mind, and they are like obstacles. There are other obstacles like grief, mental distress, tremors of the body, irregular breathing, and non-retention of concentration again. So to remedy this, now he also gives the remedy of how to rise over the distractions. Of course, he said abhyas and vairagya, but now he gives specific pointers in Sutras 35 to 40. Then he goes to remedy. One should practice on one object. It can be like, then he gives a variety. The feelings of friendship, mercy, gladness, and indifference in regard to objects, happy, unhappy, good and evil. Now, let me just explain this one, because in this he said, one can move towards samadhi and concentration by being happy with those who are happy, by being compassionate and merciful to those who are suffering, and by being indifferent to those who are wicked. So by following these patterns, you can attain the you can put an end or put a cessation to the vrittis in the mind. Okay. Then another thing, remedy that he gives is expelling and retraining the breath. So the practice of pranayam and the retention of breath, that means going into breathlessness, can take you towards samadhi. Then he said you can also achieve the pacification of the chitta by meditating on the effulgent light, which is beyond all sorrow. Or else, Sutra 37, meditate on the heart that has given up attachment to sense objects. Here, in explanation from all the great ones, this means meditating on the heart of the Guru, because he is the one who has overrisen above all the sense enjoyments. So if you're unable to pacify yourself, then you focus on the Guru, you meditate on his heart, feel his presence in your own heart, and that will help you to pacify the vrittis. Then he says this can also be achieved even in dreams. So for some people, it is true that the knowledge, even diksha, is given to them in the dream. So for those people, it can be attained even through dreams. Or simplifying it for everybody, he says it can also be achieved on meditating on anything that appeals to one as good. For example, people who sit by the river and like the sound of flowing water, if you meditate continuously on the sound of flowing water, which is also like the sound of Om, that even then you can attain one-pointed concentration. Okay, so thus the mind can be pacified. Then we move forward in Sutra 47. He says, when the yogi becomes established in the samadhi without discrimination, his chitta becomes firmly fixed. So he's talking about nirvikalpa samadhi, and in between sutras, I'm not going into detail because all of that again is details and types of samadhi. Okay. Then Sutra 51, which is the last sutra of Samadhipada, in that he said, by the restraint of even the impressions comes the seedless samadhi. So again, he's talking about, first is the samadhi with seed, which is sabhikalpa, and then comes the samadhi without seed, which is nirvikalpa. Then in the next chapter, which is sadhana pad, what did he say? He said, mortification means tapasya, study and surrender of the fruits of actions are called kriya. So here, this is not the Kriya Yoga that we of our path. He says general Kriya Yoga means Karma Yoga. So whoever practices can also achieve Samadhi, can move in that direction. Okay. Now he talks about the kleshas, the pain-bearing obstructions, which we know are ignorance, egoity, attachment, aversion, and clinging. Means raga, desh, dvesh, avidya, asmita, abhinivesha. All of that we have discussed previously in detail. Okay. And then he says, and what does ignorance mean? He has defined ignorance in Sutra number 5. He says ignorance means to think of the non-eternal, impure and painful as the happy, pure and self, Atman. So the confusion which everybody has, people think that this temporary life is the source of all happiness. This is a false thinking. This is delusional. And instead of that, we have to go towards the pure self, which is permanent and eternal bliss. And Sutra 6, egoity is the identification of the seer with the instrument of seeing. So यहाँ पे दृष्टा और दृश्य की बात जो हमने पहले की थी, ignorance तब arise होती है जब when we the seer, when we the witness start to identify ourselves with the objects that we see, and that's how we kind of get involved in this Maya. If we stay ourselves just as pure awareness, then this confusion will not happen. So it's because when whatever data we get through the senses, we kind of get attached to the objects, we identify ourselves with the objects, including our body. Our body is also an object, though we are the witness of all the things happening to the body and mind and the surrounding world. So Patanjali clearly says this is the source of ignorance and it is a painful obstruction. Okay. Sutra 7, attachment is that which dwells on pleasure. We know जो भी चीज हमें अच्छी लगती है हम उससे attach होने लगते हैं. And aversion is that which dwells on pain. जो चीज हमें pain देती है उससे हम दूर जाना चाहते हैं. Then Sutra number 12 was very, very interesting. He said about the repository of karma. So he said that according to our karma, it is decided which kind of species we are born as, means what kind of body we have, then how much length of our life is going to be, and how much pleasure and pain we will experience in this life is all determined by the repository of karma that we ourselves created in the past life. Okay. So and then he says, but to the yogi, everything is painful in this life because he knows that this is temporary. This is not going to give him fulfilling, lasting joy. So he sees everything in this life as painful and wants to develop vairagya and wants to detach himself from it. Then Sutra 16, Patanjali says that the misery that is yet to come should be avoided. Now, since in the previous sutra he said that all the pleasure and pain in this life are dependent on past karma, therefore that this means whatever we are doing right now will determine the pleasure and pain that will come in future lives if we have future lives. If we do not work for our salvation now, then means we are going to have future lives. And whatever our attitude right now is, whatever our consciousness now is, that will determine what will happen to us in future lives. So we have to be very careful, be very, very, very strict with yourself. If you are happy all the time, then you are in the consciousness of happiness. That means to whatever worlds or beyond the worlds you may go, you will be in the consciousness of happiness, means the highest heavens. And if you are right now living in the consciousness of misery, of being a victim, then you will go to the spheres where this is more predominant. There will be tamas, there is darkness. So be very careful of what you are telling yourself, what you are affirming all the time. And hell and heaven, you don't have to go into another world also. The fact that your heart feels open and happy and relaxed means you are in heaven. The fact you feel very congested in your heart, if your energy feels low, means you're kind of living in a hell and you won't like it. So then who is going to change it? It is we who have created this energy pattern for us. It is we, with the power of and help of the master, that we have to change this. So we have to try our best. That means we need to meditate regularly, we need to energize regularly, we need to do all the practices that we have been given. We need to have faith and trust in God and the gurus. And we have to do all of this sincerely, as Patanjali said previously, with love and devotion. We have to do it constantly and unceasingly, because we are writing the book of our life right now. Okay. Then skipping few sutras, we come to sutra number 28, where he talked about 28 to actually 35, 40. We talked about the yamas and the niyamas. We talked about the perfections that are achieved through the practice of the yamas and niyamas. Then he also talked about asana in sutra number 46. And then he talked about pranayam, he talked about pratyahara, and he mentioned that by the practice of all this, dharana becomes easy. And the last sutra of the last chapter said that thence arises supreme control of the sense organs. So this is an amazing science of the mind that Patanjali has given to us. It is up to us how we follow it, how much we, he said mild, moderate, or seriously. So how serious we are in this attainment of freedom, it is all given to us. It is in a plate given to us. What we pick from that, how soon we pick it, how we apply it in our life, how we live right now, all of that is going to determine in what direction we are going. Are we going towards freedom or are we going towards bondage? So everything lies with us. Do not forget that. Don't think that someone out there will suddenly put some happiness in your lap for free. Nothing is free. You have to earn it. You have to deserve it. And how do you deserve happiness? By being, firstly, being happy yourself halfway. You have to meet joy halfway. So you have to be happy yourself. You have to say yes to life. You have to be willing about everything you do. You have to do every work that you do as coming from God, joyfully, willingly, and then you have to trust. Also, you have to keep at every step, at every action, you have to keep giving the fruits of your action to God. If we do all that, then according to this Shastra, this scriptures, the success is guaranteed. And what is success? Success is freedom, moksha. Moksha from what? From all suffering, dukha nivritti, परमानंद प्राप्ति. क्या हम सबका क्या एम है? यही तो एम है. मोक्ष क्या है? ठीक है, we don't want births and deaths. Why we don't want births and deaths? Because there is pain in that. So what we want? We want परमानंदम. So परमानंद प्राप्ति और दुख निवृत्ति, मतलब सारी सफरिंग की सिजेशन. ये हमारे राइट भी है और इसको पाना हमारी ड्यूटी भी है. तो ये हमें साथ साथ हर पल में ये जीना पड़ेगा, तब जाके ये साक्षात होगा, तब जाके हमारी लाइफ में ये मैनिफेस्ट हो जाएगा. ओके, नाउ वी बिगिन Vibhuti Pad, the third book. It is called the Book of Accomplishments. Okay, the first 9-10 sutras are pretty simple. So let's just listen to them. Then will come a little difficult part, which we'll cruise through next time. And then again, it'll become easy. Okay, Sutra number 1. Desha bandhaschittasya dharana. Meaning, dharana is holding the mind onto some particular object. So like one thing. Dharana is when the mind holds to some object, either inside the body or outside the body, and keeps itself in that state. Swami Kriyananda says, dharana is concentration, that is, fixing one's full attention on one place, one object, or one idea at one time. When one can concentrate with relatively one-pointed attention on any problem, no matter how worldly his problem, he is 1,000 times more likely to solve it. So, इसका क्या मतलब है कि ये इसमें कंफ्यूजन हो सकती है लोगों को. स्वामी जी का मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम प्रॉब्लम में ही घुसे रहें. हमें सॉल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड रहना है, हमें प्रॉब्लम ओरिएंटेड नहीं रहना. लेकिन वंस देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम, वी काइंड ऑफ जस्ट एक्सेप्ट, we acknowledge, okay, there is a problem. Now we have to seek the result one pointedly. तो हमें solution पे one pointedly focus करना है. We have to intuit all available options. We have to meditate to open our heart so that we can intuitively receive guidance. And this is absolutely possible. You start with your common sense. As you meditate, you will develop intuition. And whenever any problem comes, whether it's a financial or physical, you will know which direction to take intuitively. And intuition develops only with regular practice of meditation. Dharana opens the window of intuition in our minds. The calmer and more removed we are from outer distractions, the more we somehow know whether a particular direction of action will work or not work. The real and higher purpose of dharana is to turn it inward in communion with the higher self. Sutra number 2. Tatra pratyai ekatanata dhyanam. Uninterrupted stream of the content of consciousness is dhyana. Swami Vivekananda says, an unbroken flow of knowledge to that object. पहले आपने वन पॉइंटेड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन किया एक ऑब्जेक्ट पे, जिसको हमने धारणा कहा. अब उसको जो कॉन्सेंट्रेशन है वो एक पल या 2 पल के लिए नहीं, यदि आप उसको एक कॉन्टिन्यूअस फ्लो की तरह, एक स्ट्रीम की तरह करेंगे, तब वो ध्यान बन जाएगा. So the mind, he says, tries to think of one object. For example, it holds itself to one particular spot in the body. For example, it may be the crown of the head, it may be the spiritual eye, or it may be the heart chakra. And if the mind succeeds in receiving the sensations only through that part of the body and through no other part, that would be dharana. And when the mind succeeds in keeping itself in that state for some period of time, it's called dhyana. So, for example, जब आप जितने भी लोग यहाँ meditate करते हैं regularly, जब हम spiritual eye पे focus करते हैं, तो कई बार क्या होता है, momentarily हमारी जो attention है वो यहाँ पे fix हो जाती है, let's say for a few seconds. अब जब उसको हम कहेंगे धारणा. लेकिन जब हम prolonged, जब हमारी यहाँ पे concentration fixed है spiritual eye पे, तो एक तो हमें बाकी sensations कम हो जानी चाहिए automatically, तभी वो धारणा मानी जाएगी. अगर आपकी थोड़ी सी एनर्जी spiritual eye पे है, लेकिन बाकी एनर्जी से आप बहुत सारे और काम कर रहे हो, तो वो धारणा नहीं है. It's one point. It has to be one pointed as per definition. तो जब आपको बाकी sensations कम हो जाएं और केवल spiritual eye पे ही सिर्फ सारी sensation feel हो, तो वो है धारणा. अब ये prolonged समय तक ये एक धारा की तरह, मतलब बहता रहे एक स्ट्रीम की तरह, कॉन्टिन्यूअसली आपको फील हो कि आपकी जो एनर्जी है वो स्पाइन में राइज हो रही है एक रिवर की तरह, और एक रिवर की तरह स्पिरिचुअल आई से पोर आउट हो रही है, नॉट जस्ट मोमेंटरी और नॉट जस्ट फॉर अ फ्यू मोमेंट्स, देन बिकम्स ध्यान. जितने भी लोग ने हिंदू ये हवन, सनातन धर्म के जो हवन होते हैं, आर्य समाजी हवन होते हैं, लास्ट में वो एक सेरेमनी करते हैं जिसमें वो कहते हैं कि जो घी है वो नारियल में भर के एक फ्लो से वो हवन कुंड में जाना चाहिए, ऐसे ड्रॉप ड्रॉप नहीं जाना चाहिए. सो थिंक ऑफ इट लाइक दैट. जब वो एक्सट्रीम जाती है continuously, so that is when similarly in our body, when the energy starts to flow in continuity towards that one spot on which we are concentrating, and it continues to flow, keeps flowing for some consistent period of time, then it becomes dhyana. It is naturally understood that in dhyan, you will not have any other sensation. You are so single pointedly into that flow that you will not feel anything else. अगर आपको फिर भी और चीजें बाहर की बहुत सारी सुनाई दे रही हैं और आपका ध्यान जा रहा है कि वो क्या बोल रहा है और यहाँ क्या हो रहा है, वो बाहर से शोर आ रहा है, तो आप धारणा या ध्यान में उतने नहीं हैं, ये बात समझिए और आपको अपनी प्रैक्टिस को और डीपन करने की जरूरत है. लेकिन डीपनिंग प्रैक्टिस का मतलब बिल्कुल भी टेंशन नहीं होता है. कई बार हम इतना ज्यादा विल पावर लगाते हैं, इतनी ज्यादा टेंशन में हम सोचते हैं कि नहीं आज तो मैं करके ही रहूंगा, आज मैं ध्यान करके ही रहूंगा. ध्यान एक्चुअली रिलैक्सेशन में होता है. आपको अपनी यू हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी श्योर दैट योर होल बॉडी इज रिलैक्स्ड and that your attitude is not of trying to grab on dhyana. You are relaxed. You should realize that it is your natural state. तो बिल्कुल मन से रिलैक्स हो जाइए, किसी भी फल की इच्छा ना कीजिए, शरीर को भी पूरा रिलैक्स कर लीजिए और फिर अपनी प्रैक्टिस कीजिए. और ये अपने आप होगा, बिकॉज दिस इज अ साइंटिफिक वे. अगर आपने यम नियम आसना प्राणायाम कर रहे हैं तो ये अपने आप होगा. और गुरु की ग्रेस, गुरु तो है ही है हमारी हेल्प करने के लिए. So that continuous flow of one pointed concentration from dharana, it becomes dhyana. Okay. Yogananda ji said that concentration is fixing the mind one pointedly on one thing at a time, and meditation is turning the concentrated mind toward God or one of his attributes. And of course, we know the 8 attributes of the divine. In meditation, it is not enough simply to hear the cosmic sound, but to see the cosmic light, but you have to be completely absorbed in it. So you have to become the sound, you have to become the light, you have to become the peace. When that happens, that is true meditation, that is true dhyana. And then, of course, it takes you to samadhi. Sutra number 3. तदेव अर्थ मात्रा निर्भासम स्वरूप शून्यम इव समाधि. Meaning, the state becomes samadhi when there is only the object without the consciousness of one's own self. Swami Kriyananda ji says, when the subject, the person meditating, and the object of his meditation, that is God, they become one, that is samadhi. So it can also be said as the state where only the essence of the being shines forth, as if there is no form. So a point will come as you meditate regularly that your body remains only an idea, the body is just a thought, and you are dwelling in the pure awareness of the self. You are dwelling in the awareness of the Atman. So that is the point where samadhi is attained, and you will have, it's not कि अभी तक कुछ नहीं हुआ और सडनली कल तक हो जाएगा, ऐसा नहीं होता. कई बार समाधि जो है एक्सपेंशन में आती है, तो आपकी 1-1.5 घंटे की मेडिटेशन में कई बार आपको मोमेंटरीली फ्यू सेकंड्स के लिए या 1-2 मिनट्स के लिए आपको वो फील हो सकता है दैट यू आर नॉट द बॉडी, दैट यू आर दैट लिक्विड पीस, एंड देन यू ड्वेल इन दैट पीस. सो वो मोमेंटरी होता है, लेकिन धीरे धीरे साधना के साथ एंड ओनली बाय द ग्रेस ऑफ गुरु समाधि जो है वो आप में, आपको वो एक्सपीरियंस होता है सभी कल्प समाधि का. और सभी कल्प समाधि भी अपने आप में सफिशिएंट नहीं है. प्रीवियस सूत्रों में हम ये पढ़ चुके हैं कि उसको हमें निर्विकल्प समाधि यानी 24/7 we have to come to the realization that we are infinite in nature, we are eternal in nature, that we cannot die, we are immortal, we are the light. And then from that point of view, you live this life. So what does God want from us? He wants us, he has created us, he wants us to play the role that he has given us. But he wants us simultaneously to remember who we truly are. So this has to be, then only then this game becomes amazing. Then only the drama becomes amazing and nice. When you know that you are the infinite self, you are the Atman, you are not the mind, you are not the personality, you are not the body, you are the Atman, ever free. From that vantage point, now you play your role without emotional involvement, to the best of your intellectual capacity, with high energy. And then you can, so simultaneously, although you are living this life, you are in the body, you can still be in the state of Chitta Vritti Nirodha, because you have understood that this is nothing but God's dream, this is just a play. And you withdraw yourself from that. Okay. Sutra number 4. Traya Mekatra Samyam. These three taken together, that means Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi, these three together are called Samyam. It is a perfect and simultaneous confluence of Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi occurring at exactly the same moment. So what he is saying here is कि separate steps नहीं है, एक तरह से one goes into another. There is an overlapping. आप एक बार वन पॉइंटेड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन करते हो, धारणा में जाते हो, अगर आप उसको कॉन्टिन्यूअस बना लेते हो तो वो ध्यान हो जाता है, और फिर जब सेंस ऑफ आईनेस दैट आई एम इन ध्यान और धारणा दैट गोज अवे, देन यू आर इन समाधि. ओके, एंड इट इज अ वेरी वेरी अचीवेबल स्टेट. ये बिल्कुल मत सोचिए कि ये आपके साथ नहीं होगा या पता नहीं कब होगा, कभी भी हो सकता है. बी रेडी फॉर इट, बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट, वर्क फॉर इट, work for it in a relaxed and happy way, giving everything to God. Give the fruits of your meditation to God. It will happen. It has to happen. Okay. So Swami Kriyananda says, when these three, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi, are all directed toward their end, that is Samyam, attunement with or absorption in. Sutra number 5. Tajayat Pragna Lokaha, meaning, first Swami Vivekananda, he says, by the conquest of that comes the light of knowledge. So basically what happens, what do you achieve? Once you have concentration, you're in Samadhi, then what happens is that you achieve the light of knowledge, of Jnana, and Jnana destroys all ignorance, and you come to the realization that you were always the ever-free Atman. You only thought because of delusion that you are this limited body. You were ever free, you are ever free, and you will be ever free. So that realization, that is the light of knowledge that just dawns upon you. And then you do not just bother about the little petty things that keep happening in daily life. When one has succeeded in making this samyam, all powers come under his control. Okay. This samyam should be first applied to gross things. When you begin to get knowledge of the gross, slowly by stages, it should be brought to the finer things. So basically, हमारे लिए gross क्या है? Material things. एक बार हमें material things, हमें अपना सारा काम full concentration से करना चाहिए. धीरे धीरे हमें अपने interiorize होना है. We have to be concentrated on the prana, then we have to be concentrated on the thought, and then जब तक हम अवेयर ही नहीं होंगे कि ये सारी चीजें डिफरेंट लेवल्स पे चल रही हैं हमारे अंदर, तो हम उसको मैनिपुलेट कैसे करेंगे या उसके मास्टर कैसे बनेंगे. सो वी हैव टू बी वर्किंग फर्स्ट एट ग्रोसर लेवल्स, देन वी हैव टू कीप फाइन ट्यूनिंग आवरसेल्व्स टू, एंड वी हैव टू कीप गोइंग विद इन एट वेरियस लेवल्स. By the mastery of samyam comes intuitive understanding. And intuition does not mean imagination. It means an understanding from within. It is an understanding of the inner nature of all things. Sutra number 6. Tasya bhumishu viniyoga. This should be applied in stages. So Patanjali बहुत clearly कह रहे हैं कि ये overnight phenomenon नहीं है. जो इतनी सारी बातें उन्होंने previous सूत्रों में करी, ये overnight नहीं होने वाला है. Rome is not built in a day. This has to be done in stages. So you have to start from where you are. You cannot say कि कल मुझे गुरु की तरह बनना है, बस कल मैं बन जाऊंगा. हम जहाँ खड़े हैं हम वहीं से तो अपनी चढ़ाई शुरू करेंगे. तो पहला कदम हम वहीं से लेंगे. लेकिन एटलीस्ट जो शास्त्र हैं, जो स्क्रिप्चर्स हैं, वो हमारी दिशा निर्धारित कर लेते हैं और वो हमें गोल बता देते हैं. गोल क्या है? गॉड रियलाइजेशन. गॉड रियलाइजेशन मतलब ये नहीं कि एक 9th हेवन वाले गॉड को हम पाएंगे, मतलब सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन. ये हम जिस दिन ये जान जाएंगे कि गॉड इज इन अस, दैट वी आर हिम, thou art that, that I am he, I am spirit, that is the goal. And what is the path? The various ways of yoga, of course meditation and karma and jnana and bhakti, all of this has been given to us. तो जब हम ये स्टेजेस में अप्लाई करेंगे तो सक्सेस गारंटीड है। सूत्र नंबर 7, त्रयम अंतरा अंगन पूर्वेभ्य, meaning these three are internal in relation to the preceding ones। तो यहाँ पे रेफरेंस किसको है? पतंजलि के अष्टांग योग को। जो पहले 5 लिम्स हैं, यानी कि यम, नियम, आसन, प्राणायाम, प्रत्याहार, ये जो है थोड़े एक्सटर्नल हैं, और जो संयम के 3 लिम्स हैं, यानी कि धारणा, ध्यान और समाधि, पतंजलि से ये मोर इंटीरियर हैं, ये अंतर अंग हैं। सो स्लोली स्लोली हम ग्रॉस से सटल ऑटोमेटिकली जा रहे हैं। तो कहाँ यम से शुरू किया था पतंजलि ने कि झूठ ना बोलो, चोरी ना करो, ब्रह्मचर्य का पालन करो, फिर क्लेनलीनेस, फिर एनर्जी कंजर्व करो, तपस्या करो, इंट्रोस्पेक्शन करो, फिर अपने शरीर को सही आसन में रखो, फिर अपने प्राणों को कंट्रोल करो, फिर अपने आप को इंटीरियराइज करो। तो इतने हम इंटरनल लेवल पे ग्रॉस से सटल आ रहे हैं स्टेप बाय स्टेप। और फिर ये जो 3 संयम के स्टेप्स हैं, ये हमारे बहुत इंटरनल हैं और ये बहुत सटल हैं। सूत्र नंबर 8, तद अपि बहिरंगम निर्विज्ञासा, मीनिंग बट इवन दे आर एक्सटर्नल टू द सीडलेस समाधि। सो यानी कि वो कह रहे हैं कि जो धारणा, ध्यान, समाधि है, ये इंटरनल है पहले 5 से, लेकिन ये भी जो प्योर निर्विकल्प समाधि है, सीडलेस समाधि है, उससे एक्सटर्नल है। तो ये हमें अगेन पतंजलि दिशा बता रहे हैं कि जब आप कंसंट्रेशन कर लोगे, जब आप समाधि में जाओगे, वो होगी सविकल्प समाधि। फिर जब वो परमानेंट हो जाएगी, सीडलेस हो जाएगी, जब पास्ट इंप्रेशन सारे हट जाएंगे, तो that is samadhi without seed, which is more inside us, and actually that is taking us to the Atman, the realization of the Atman. Savikalpa samadhi purifies and elevates the yogi, but he still remains in the realm of relative existence, even though of a higher order. Nirvikalpa samadhi takes the yogi beyond relativity into the absolute realm, where even eventually he will remain forever. Okay. Swami Kriyananda ji says, with Sabikalpa Samadhi, there is still the danger of falling back into his ego and worldliness. In fact, कई सारी बुक्स में और कई सारे सेंट्स ने कहा है कि जब आपको सविकल्प समाधि का एक्सपीरियंस हो जाता है, यानी कि आप ध्यान में थे, आप मेडिटेट कर रहे थे और सडनली आपको वो वननेस विद द यूनिवर्स का एक्सपीरियंस हो गया, दिस इज सविकल्प समाधि। अब जब आप उस समाधि स्टेट से नेचुरली मेडिटेशन बंद करेंगे तो आप वापस नॉर्मल अपने स्टेट में आ जाएंगे, लेकिन वो मेमोरी आपको रहेगी कि आप वैसा अचीव कर सकते हो। तो आपको ये लगने लगता है कि आप तो बहुत महान हो गए हो, आप समाधि स्टेट टच कर सकते हो, तो आप तो और लोगों से बहुत महान हो, और आप कई बार अपने गुरु को भी अपने से कम समझने लग जाते हो। ऐसे कई बार होता है। तो ये जो स्टेट है, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है यहाँ पे अपने आप को पकड़ के रखना, क्योंकि यहाँ से वापस डुअलिटी में गिरने का डर है। इसको जब तक आप निर्विकल्प में कन्वर्ट नहीं कर लेते, सारे इंप्रेशन नहीं हटा लेते, तब तक you are not safe from the maya or power of delusion. So you have to be very, 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 very careful. Even if you attain such states in meditation, we have to remember that we are still the disciples of this great master who has come especially and took all the pains in his body and mind to help us out, and that we still need to work a lot on ourselves. So be very careful that यहाँ पर आपकी ईगो जो है वो आपको वापस नीचे ना खींचने पड़े। अपने आप को महान हम क्या ही समझें, हम मतलब जब हम अपनी सांस भी हमारे कंट्रोल में नहीं है, हम अगली सांस भी we do not know, we have not created ourselves, we do not are sustaining ourselves, so हम अपने आप को क्या ही समझे। पर ये मैच्योरिटी आनी चाहिए। कई बार समाधि एक्सपीरियंस के बाद लोग बहुत बहक जाते हैं और फिर से फॉल कर जाते हैं। सूत्र नंबर 9. Okay, so this is the last sutra for the day, and this is a bit difficult one, so we'll just mention it today and maybe we'll go deeper into this the next time. So sutra number 9 is a long one. It says vyutthana anirodh sanskarayo abhibhav pradurbhavav nirodh akshanna achit anvayo nirodh parinam. क्या मतलब है? Swami Vivekananda says, by the suppression of the disturbed modifications of the mind and by the rise of modification of control, the mind is set to attain the controlling modifications following the controlling powers of the mind. ओके ये बात हमें समझ आने लगेगी जब हम सूत्र नंबर 16 को क्रॉस करेंगे, तो ये थोड़ा समझ आएगा. बट बहुत ही सिंपल शब्दों में ये कह रहे हैं कि जब हमारे सपोज नॉर्मल रेस्टलेस थॉट्स हैं हमारे मन में, ये तो हो गई वृत्तिज, और ये वर्लपूल्स की तरह होती हैं, हमें और सिमिलर थॉट्स को अट्रैक्ट करती हैं, वही एनर्जी अट्रैक्ट करती हैं. तो ये हमारी द ओशन ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस में, यानी कि द लेक ऑफ द माइंड में जो है ये डिस्टर्बेंस क्रिएट करिए, एक वेव की तरह है, एक वर्लपूल की तरह है. अब हम इसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए कुछ और करते हैं, जैसे हम कंसंट्रेट कर रहे हैं या हम यम नियम प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं. तो एक वेव तो हो गई ये डिस्टर्बेंस की या ये प्रॉब्लम की. अब हम कॉन्शियसली एक दूसरी वेव क्रिएट कर रहे हैं कंट्रोल करने की, है वो भी वेव. तो यहाँ पे ये कहा जा रहा है कि एक वृत्ति को कंट्रोल करने के लिए पहले आप दूसरी वृत्ति क्रिएट करो जो कि पॉजिटिव वृत्ति है, जो कि कंट्रोल की वृत्ति है, but that too is also a movement in the consciousness. And truth is that we have to go where there is stillness, where there is absolutely no movement, which is beyond duality. So this is simply, very, very simply, this is what Patanjali is saying. First, the vritti of the disturbances of thoughts, of emotions have to be controlled by creating another vritti of control. And then after that, then in the next sutras, he will say how then it works. So this is again, I would say, a very, very pure and advanced science of the mind, which is available to us by the grace of the masters. With that thought, dear friends, let us share this power, this blessing with souls everywhere. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Oh. 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 Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.